The Icebox is a great story because it developed from an initial idea about service and seeing an opportunity to deliver exceptional service in a very basic industry of ice delivery. And having trained and worked through the hotel and restaurant business, I saw the opportunity existed for this high level of service. Having got into the business, I then discovered this whole new world, which I'd been fascinated with before, which was ice sculpture. And at that time, this was 20 years ago, Icebox started creating ice sculptures with a slightly different angle. Not the traditional cruise ship and five-star hotel swans and dolphins, which are still popular and still used throughout the world, but we created things that were a little bit more interesting, a little bit more creative, and we also identified the advantage of using ice to shock and awe and as a device for brand communications and marketing. And so starting from a very small base, with a very small team, and developing my own skills with sculpture and my own interest in art and creative design, we then built the company, slowly but surely, over a few years. And we've now grown to the stage where, having weathered many storms, like many small businesses, we employ currently about 20 people. We have sales in the UK of about £2 million a year. We're profitable, and we've now started to explore some new markets and new developments. And we've actually worked abroad and got a partnership in Dubai in the Middle East, and we're exploring other areas at the moment as well. For me, creativity and innovation is letting people's ideas work and be communicated for the good of the consumer or the customer in what we do. That's not to say we're not just an art gallery and a bunch of artists all working away to come up with something crazy or interesting or off the wall. We do have to kind of stick to what we need to achieve for the customer. Our great test for creativity and innovation is very often in the brief from the client. If we're working with a brand, a major global brand, they will tell us that they want to achieve a certain result by using ice. And what we try to do is understand what it is they want to achieve, why we have to come up with something clever with the ice. And there the creativity and innovation comes into play to deliver a positive and a successful result for the client. For my own part, I'm fascinated with contemporary art, modern architecture, and I think people are fascinated by those things generally. The modern world changes quickly and it's communicated through the internet immediately, and people love to see something interesting. People are more open-minded, less conservative in their approach, and I think that's where we can explore and be creative and innovative. Within my own team, the way we do that is we have 3 key people who are involved in the creative side: sculptor, production manager, the CNC technical operator, myself. We also have a production director who takes part in other parts of our business, the new business that we're into now, and we will brainstorm ideas and collectively come up with what the result or what the solution is for the goals that we've set. And those goals and those objectives really have to be either for the client, the global brand, and delivering what they want to make the event work, or to create a certain level of impact, or to ensure that they get the PR coverage thereafter, or whatever their criteria is. And in our own case, when we're coming up with something like an ice festival, which we're now operating, which is our new market, these revolve around a traditional outdoor temporary ice rink. But everything from the artists, the street artists, the way we configure the outside of the building, the design, geodesic domes, all sorts of innovative approaches that have not been used in that sector, because we want to create a certain aesthetic. of high quality, modern, interesting, and despite the very broad range of consumers, you've got to come up with things that make people curious, that make them interested. I think with every business, however small, however large, innovation is a key component. And if you're in a creative business like ours, you've got to try and always keep an open mind. You know, sometimes people ask, you know, how do you remain innovative, and what do you do to keep ahead of the game? You have to keep an open mind. You have to keep out there taking in lots of information. With our business, what happened was, and I can honestly admit, it was driven slightly by us finding things tough. Mid 2008-9 period where the whole world was taking a long, hard look at how business was done, and of course, economic factors were meaning that we were struggling. You know, everybody was doing less business and having to cut back and make some tough decisions. In doing that, it made us think about what else can we do. We've got a good skill base here. We've got some very creative and innovative people within the team. An idea that we'd seen was that in the UK regionally, not just in London, but regionally, every winter there is an interest in temporary ice rinks. In our opinion, for many years, they were very dull and very boring, and they were the same thing every year in every place. And because we come from the creative side of ice, and we've created ice sculptures and done live carving displays, we knew there was an opportunity to try and link this together. But you can't just turn up and do the ice carving and disappear one day. So we decided to look at the whole market. What were people really looking for? The consumer, who was buying the ticket to skate, plus the shopping centre or the city centre council, or sometimes a sponsor who was supporting these sort of projects. What were they looking for to engage their public, or to make it different, or to make their ice rink different from somebody else's? And what we identified, and we created an ice festival which involves some international artists as well, which we now are in our 6th year, coming up next January in London. Having looked at the market, we then decided, okay, there's an opportunity here. It has to be presented and delivered to the potential client as a complete package with our creative skills in theming, in providing lots of different component parts that would appeal to the consumer, the end consumer who might buy the ticket from a commercial point of view, but also to make a statement that something has to be different. And last year we launched the Liverpool Ice Festival in the very city centre, and we had a pop-up ice bar where people were able to visit an ice bar with an alpine cafe bar attached, in very modern contemporary structures, a rink which had features displayed in the centre, not just any old rink, and the quality and finish and the decor, again, all in keeping and themed. A massive ice slide where we had over 50,000 people coming down the slide, an ice gallery where children visiting Santa's grotto weren't just making their traditional trip to Santa to tell him their story or what they wanted, but they went through an ice gallery and a magical forest as well. And that's an evolution, that's a complete innovation in that sector that was using our skill base and pulling in some external help. We had to take on board, I mentioned a production director before, who had been involved in the technical side of installing those sort of projects, so that by the time we were presenting to our clients, how do you grow this? How do you make that part of your business? How do you tell your new client who's never used you before that you're credible and that you're able to execute this, to make this thing happen, and well, at the standard you're saying? You have to pull the right people together. so you've got the right skill base, you have to come up with some very creative ideas. And we're still doing that. We've got one this year, which we're pitching at the moment. I'm positive that we'll get it this year, where it's not just an ice rink, for example. In the center will be an igloo with a bridge over, and people will go into the ice bar. That's something that has never been done. And it is really looking outside the box, but also just keeping creative and always attaching it to what the commercial aim is, or what the client aim is as well, meeting goals, objectives. The thing about ice sculpture, which is unique, it is unique. Not many people make sculptures commercially, and the clients we look after range from film business, special effects, mainly live events and promotions, marketing, presentations. And over the years we've looked after a lot of big companies, from installations that have been at their convention, at an exhibition, at a live event, and some of the brands that we've worked for, the Grey Goose, Coca-Cola, our largest projects and most exciting probably in terms of challenging logistically, plus having to really come up with clever design that still again ticks the boxes for the criteria and the objectives and goals. The largest we ever did was in Germany, actually. Back in 2006, we created 2 ice houses, complete ice houses. Each of those was situated in a city centre, and it was part of an engagement program for a large bank in Germany who were running a TV advertising campaign, a print campaign, the early stages of digital campaign before digital became so important as well. And their aim was to create something that was tangible and had a connection with their online and their TV campaign. And it was very successful, very challenging. 250 tons of ice for each ice house, only 2 days to build them. They had to be located somewhere for 5 days, so the thickness and size of the ice was phenomenal because it had to last for that length of time, and they were very successful. That's certainly one of the largest. Probably some of the most original and crazy and exciting have been some exclusive private parties. We've looked after Sir Elton John's White Tie and Tiara Ball, which held in the UK. It's a real global fundraising event. It's a real glitterati, Hollywood, global celebrity scene. And they have had some incredible things. We've done an ice bar, a circular ice bar in the shape of the Colosseum. And we've created replicas of Las Vegas buildings and hotels that are iconic because we've needed to theme something and match it into whatever the occasion was. We've even got images of, presidents and major international celebrities going to these sort of events. We've also worked for the Champions League, UEFA, hundreds, thousands of major brands, which I'm very proud to say because all have been successful, all have, I think, done what they were asked to do.